And welcome to the briefing room on this Tuesday. I'm Devin Dwyer in ABC News Washington with our justice reporter Jack Date. Thanks for joining us today. A big morning of news here in Washington, all swirling around the nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the president just holding a news conference a few minutes ago calling for an open process to investigate those bombshell allegations from 36 years ago against Judge Kavanaugh. Let's take a listen to what the president just had to say about the process he wants to see.
Republicans, and I can speak for myself, we should go through a process because there shouldn't even be a little doubt. There shouldn't be a doubt. Again, they knew what they were doing. They should have done this a long time ago, 3 months ago, not now. But they did it now. So I don't want to play into their hands. Hopefully, the woman will come forward, state her case. He will state his case before representatives of the United States Senate, and then they will vote.
So President Trump throwing his support behind that Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that's been set for Monday, 10 a.m. It would be an epic hearing of both the judge and his accuser. But Jack, the president is sort of missing one fact here. The woman is not confirmed, and Democrats want the FBI to do investigating into this before they hear from her.
That's right. And the way the process is set up, it's the president's appointment. The FBI has already done a background investigation on Judge Kavanaugh. They presented that to the White House. After that was done, they became aware of this allegation by a letter on September 12th. They brought that to the White House's attention as well. It's up to the White House to compel them to do further investigation.
Right, so they slipped this information in the file. I think a lot of people are having trouble sort of digesting this. They think the FBI, seasoned investigators, here is a pretty serious allegation that's coming against someone. A lot of people saying, well, why doesn't the FBI just investigate that? They don't understand. And certainly that's what Democrats want here. But you're saying it's not their purview to look into something like this.
It's not. If this were an issue of a federal crime being alleged, they would have a predicate to go and investigate. We don't have that here. And so what we have is an administrative process of their background investigation process. And the way that's set up, when they find something like this after the investigation is completed, they bring it to the attention of the stakeholder, in this case the White House. It's up to that stakeholder, the White House, to act.
So the president's saying he doesn't think the FBI should do this. He doesn't think they want to do this. That's perhaps a little bit of a twist because they haven't said anything other than it's not really their purview.
They want to be in the middle of this, but they'll do what they're asked.
Yeah, could they do it if the president asked for them to look into it?
They could.
Okay, and so they would presumably interview the woman. They would interview potential witnesses. We do know that the Senate Judiciary Committee, which has its own investigators, are doing that right now. Meanwhile, Republicans are full steam ahead for this committee hearing on Monday, even though the woman has not yet confirmed, Christine Blasey Ford. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader today, said it's sort of a do-or-die moment for her. Take a listen.
She's been asking for the opportunity to be heard, and she's going to be given the opportunity to be heard on Monday. As Senator Cornyn pointed out, she could do it privately if she prefers, or publicly if she prefers. Monday is her opportunity.
So Monday is her opportunity, Jack. We still haven't heard from her. We do know that Susan Collins, a Republican of Maine, critical vote, has said she hopes the hearing will take place and that attorneys for both sides will get to question both of these witnesses. It would be an extraordinary scene.
It absolutely would. It remains to be, as we stand here today, it remains to be seen if we'll ever get to that point or whether this process will string out even further.
That's right. The Democrats seem to be wanting the FBI to look into it. Meanwhile, speaking of the FBI, another major story hit late yesterday, just in the midst of the Kavanaugh news, got a little bit buried, but the president taking the extraordinary step of ordering the declassification of a number of documents of the FBI investigation into the Russia probe, but also into Hillary Clinton's emails. These are the famous page-struck texts, reporting also some texts involving the former FBI director, James Comey. But Jack, a lot of people sort of wondering the significance of this. Here the president is taking unilateral action. But what does this stuff going to show? What is it?
The other thing that he asked to be declassified is the Carter Page FISA application. FISA applications are among the most sensitive documents in the U.S. government. We saw for the first time earlier this year a redacted version of the FISA application released. the president's asking for other pages of that to be declassified. What we're going to see happen now is that the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, will conduct an equities review. So all the agencies that contributed to that FISA application will have the opportunity then to look at it, evaluate it, to see if they would recommend any further redactions. That information will be compiled, sent to the White House, and the White House, the president, the redactor, the declassifier in chief, he can decide whether or not he wants to take those recommendations or not.
This is very complicated, but the bottom line here for those keeping score at home, Carter Page, of course, member of the Trump campaign team, under surveillance by the FBI for possible ties to Russia. And this document the president is declassifying was sort of the origins, the application for that surveillance, what was put forward to okay those wiretaps. And the president is implying that it was politically motivated.
Right. But even at the end of this redaction process, if the president goes ahead with it, there'll be dozens and dozens of pages will be left redacted, and we won't know the complete context of the FISA application. The real hazard for the intelligence community is, according to the sources I've spoken with, is in the future, sources are going to be reluctant perhaps to come forward and share information with the U.S. government, with the intelligence community, for fear that at one point some politician is going to declassify it and out them. That could leave sources in grave danger potentially, and so there's a lot of risk that comes with it. It's leaving the intelligence community with a lump in their throat.
And the Justice Department there weighing in on the president's order, saying they would comply with this and these documents. They're being scrubbed right now. Let's take a listen to the president weighing in on this earlier, speaking out for the first time in the Oval Office about his decision overnight. Take a listen.
Mr. President, are you willing to declassify other items regarding the Russia investigation?
Well, we're going to see. We want transparency. What I want is total transparency. This is a witch hunt. Republicans are seeing it. The Democrats know it's a witch hunt too, but they don't want to admit it because that's not good politics for them. But it's a terrible witch hunt, and it's hurt our country. And the things that have been found over the last couple of weeks about text messages back and forth are a disgrace to our nation. And I want transparency, and so does everybody else. As you know, congressional committees came to me and they wanted this, and I did it based on their request. But I think it's a good thing because we should open it up for people to see. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
And let's bring in our Jordan Phelps, who's over at the White House, been covering all the developments today. Jordan, real quick on the president's announcement there. You've been out on the campaign trail. This is an issue that really animates Trump voters.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it kind of goes into that kind of conspiracy wing of his base, and it kind of fuels the flames there, if you will. So the president, as you mentioned, Devin, knows this is a crowd pleaser, and that might be part of the reason he's playing it up.
Meanwhile, Jordan, at the press conference a little bit earlier, the president making a big splash on tariffs, one of his favorite issues. Certainly another issue playing in the midterm campaign overnight, announcing another $200 billion of tariffs on Chinese products, consumer products coming into this country. But it was pointed out by John Decker of Fox News in that press conference that the trade deficit with China has actually gone up. What did he have to say about that?
Yeah, this trade war just keeps escalating. The president not taking his foot off the gas here, if you will, with China. And this comes, Devin, amid reports that his own Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, has been pleading with the president not to escalate this further. But the president, taking this kind of art of the deal approach to this is ramping things up and asking essentially China to play chicken here. But of course, they're not doing that. They've already said in a statement, signaled that they're going to have to respond here, saying they deeply regret the president making this action. And of course, the president threatened in that statement announcing new tariffs that if China takes this action, he's going to be forced to go to, quote, phase 3, which is an additional $267 billion in tariffs. And Devin, as you well know, this is a trade war that is felt right here at home by American consumers, and some of the president's base, farmers, for instance, have already been suffering under the president's trade war.
Yeah, it sure is, Jordan. We've been out in the country and, as you know, have heard from some of those farmers, Trump supporters, very nervous about this prolonged trade war and really no end in sight, as you pointed out. But what are you also hearing about developments with Mexico and Canada? The negotiations have been underway to overhaul NAFTA as well. The president hinted today that perhaps he's getting a little bit closer on that front.
Yeah, perhaps. We know that they've already made a deal with Mexico, but Canada has really been the sticking point there. And the president has made clear that, he's not afraid to blow up NAFTA and walk away from that altogether. So, Devin, stay tuned. It's high stakes trade talk here at the White House.
All right, our Jordan Phelps at the White House. Thank you so much, Jordan. And back here in Washington, we are feeling the effects of Hurricane Florence, or what is left of it. It's very wet outside, and of course, those folks down in the Carolinas, we're thinking of them. A lot of water down there. We do know that the president is headed to the Carolinas tomorrow to see the damage firsthand. Of course, Jack, as you saw, sort of taking a little bit of a victory lap today, saying FEMA did a terrific job handling this one, even though there has been at least 32 dead.
And a long way to go for FEMA and all the government agencies that are still supporting the efforts down there. This is far from over. The floodwaters have not yet receded, and there's going to be a lot of homes and a lot of rebuilding that needs to be assessed once the floodwaters do recede. All
right, the president headed to the Carolinas tomorrow for Wednesday. We'll have that for you right here at ABC News Live. Great to have Jack Date with us. For now, I'm Devin Dwyer in Washington. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.